Hi, I'm Councilmember Ray Martinez, and I'm pleased to present this video that profiles a few of the many Latino and Latina community members, both past and present, that have helped shape our community. Though their paths in life are very different, they all share the ability to overcome the significant obstacles that all minorities have dealt with in their journey to success. Most of these people had a direct impact on my life growing up in Fort Collins, such as Dr. Gil Carbajal, who coached me in junior high school, and local resident Lee Martinez, who worked to improve race relations in our community. And I've tried to pass on the values my mentors taught me to young people in our community. Values like honesty, a willingness to share with others, and the destructiveness of judging others by anything but the content of their character. For me, the power of success doesn't come from what we know, but from what we have to learn. It is about being better, not bitter. I hope you find the stories these people have to share as inspiring as I have. Giving our youth a sense of hope becomes a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Our father came from the San Luis Valley, from the little town called San Luis.
My family and those that lived in that little town were impoverished.
There was a tremendous amount of togetherness that they had. They lived off of the land. I mean, that's how they lived.
My dad's family, they needed an opportunity. And a lot of those people from the San Luis Valley moved to Fort Collins to work over here at the sugar factory.
My mother was, I would call her a warrior, because her mindset was, we're going to be successful. Our family ended up living in what they called Andersonville, and our little house is still there. It's the third house north of the tracks.
Our parents were the type of parents that made us work, and we enjoyed working.
I come from a family of migrant field workers, so we traveled. As a young child, I worked in the fields, in the beet farm, and I worked in the onions and picking potatoes. And I remember living as a young child in the migrant camps. But my father had this drive about education, and he instilled that in me. My father said Fort Collins would be the best place for us. As he talked to real estate agents, they were told that Mexican people lived in Buckingham or Andersonville or Spanish Colony. So my father found a home in 3rd Street. It was a very small house. It only had 3 rooms. At that time, there were 8 children. I went to school here in Fort Collins. I was doing very well academically. However, I dropped out in the 7th grade. Not because I wasn't smart enough. I was suspended for fighting. It was that I had told this little white girl to stop calling me a dirty Mexican or a spick. And I had already mentioned this to the teachers, and I was tired of it.
When we were growing up, it was very tough to be a Hispanic. I missed a lot of school because I chose to ditch school.
It got to be unbearable working the fields. Sometimes you couldn't see the end of the road because of the heat waves. And Grandpa used to say, if you want to get out of the fields and stay out of the fields, get your schooling.
We've always been entrepreneurial, all 3 of us. We started when it was probably 1957, cleaning yards and mowing lawns. All during that time, you could burn here in Fort Collins. So everyone had an ash pit or they had a burn barrel.
Father had bought a 1929 Model A pickup and built some sideboards on it, and that was what we used.
We'd pull it back to the back there. Artie would tip the thing over, I'd shovel all the stuff out, haul it out to the truck and take it to the dump. We would do the trash in the morning, and then we'd go out picking beans and things like that in the afternoons.
I'm originally from New York City. I was born in Manhattan and was raised in the Bronx and in Brooklyn. I used to work packing groceries. I would get paid $12 for that day. I never worked so hard in my life, and I saw a lot of people of the Hispanic community working their hearts out. I am a junior in high school, around 17, 18 years old, and my father fell ill. it was very, very clear to me that I had to actually quit schooling, go get a job. And initially my dad just simply wouldn't have it. But I think that we all recognized that it was necessary for me to do that. My first real job was as a ticket agent for American Airlines, and it's fairly simple work. I mean, you take out a flight coupon, you give them a boarding pass. Education is powerful and it's essential. In my circumstance, I had a choice of making the best with the cards that I had been dealt. I engaged in the process of educating myself.
My parents, Manuel and Sarah Carbajal, both came from Mexico in 1912. Then they wound up here in northern Colorado as migrant workers. Just wonderful parents. Proud of them for so many things. Most of all, the way they raised us. There were 7 of us. When we lived on the farm, it was wonderful. But when we lost everything, my dad got hurt, we lost everything. My dad didn't work for 2 years. You know, first you sell one tractor, then you sell another tractor, then you sell the truck, then you sell the cows, okay? This welfare person came to the door and said, well, we want to help you. And my dad says, we don't do welfare. My wife works and my 3 oldest children work. Before school, after school weekends, and in the summers. That's a big lesson. We lost everything, but we didn't lose our foundation. When I went in the military, I knew that I would come back and go to school. Education to me was a means of living a better life.
I dropped out in the 7th grade. So I pretended to wake up in the morning and go to school, and I would hang out at a friend's house. When my parents were moving to Fort Lupton to go work in the fields, I decided that I didn't want to go. I was married at the age of 15. By the time I was 23, I had 4 children. And I decided to go for my GED. And I said, if I fail, then that makes a statement for me not to continue. But if I do pass, I will go on and complete my education.
I engaged in the process of educating myself. I got promoted. I became chef supervisor. From there, I became a zone manager. After that, I became a district manager. And I rose all the way to senior director of business development for North America.
In 5th grade, 1955, I started getting good grades. My English started getting better. And that's when I knew chemistry was going to be my goal, my purpose. I graduated in 1967 from UNC. I went in as a chemistry major, math minor. I met Connie in 1979. She was widowed with 2 little kids, and I was divorced with 3 kids.
And in that family of 5, I had to do a lot of cooking. I was good at it. I'd always told Sam that I wanted to open a restaurant. That's had always been my ambition.
And I decided to go for my GED. I really thought I had failed. It was a really hard exam. So I remember receiving that letter and it said, congratulations. I had a very high point average for math. I enrolled at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, Colorado, and I did 2 majors there, one in business administration and one in Spanish. Cap and gown to me was a symbol of my hard work. My children needed to see that. My parents needed to have a picture of one of us graduating. There was a purpose to my life after I had an opportunity to go back to school. My purpose was for me to receive an education so I could be that mentor and role model for my 4 kids.
When I was growing up, I was good in math and science, and I could keep up with my brothers, and so I never saw myself as being different from them. If they could do it, I could do it. Once I graduated from high school, I went to New Mexico State. I majored in computer science. 7 years later, I got my PhD. One of the professors said, hey, Hewlett-Packard's here. I went and I interviewed, and I got the job. I was the only Hispanic female on the technical ladder in that whole group. My plan was to move up the technical ladder at HP, and all of my peers had moved up.
My dad was Librado Martinez. He was born in 1889. He was very dedicated at the church. I mean, Dad made friends with everybody.
He was so active in so many things. It was so important to follow his lead. He would ask whoever he met in church if they were hungry, let's go to the house and we'll have something to eat.
All of us 5 boys were in the military. My oldest brother, Alonzo, was drafted. I really didn't know him. I was just a child. I vaguely remember him coming home on leave, and I just saw him in his uniform. I never saw him again. Alonzo was killed in the Battle of the Bulge. It wasn't too long after that the war was ended. In the 1950s, Dad helped establish a scholarship in Alonzo's name to help young people get an education.
In 1968, I graduated from Poudre High School. This scholarship was a big help to me. My father was a hard-working man. He was a farmer, and we lived in a little, raggedy little shack in Timnath. There were times when I thought my father was trying to discourage any of us from going to school, but it really wasn't that he was trying to discourage us. He didn't have the money to send us. The Alonzo Martinez Scholarship was a big help to me. At CSU, I had 4 great jobs over a 32-year career, met fantastic people. For everything that this scholarship did for me, I became chairman. We have given out over $300,000 worth of scholarships, and hopefully they will be happy and successful and have a great career like I feel like I did.
Dad was a pretty involved individual in the community because of the race problems, I think.
Going to school in 41, 42, if a Latino youngster got in a fight, they'd send us all home, okay? Some kids never came back.
The boys, when they came back from the military, got kicked out of the creamery. The boys were not allowed to go to the American Legion Post.
When we were kids, we sold newspapers. We'd see those signs on the doors, white trade only. I didn't think anything because I thought I was white, you know.
Our parents taught us, hey, you're just a person, you do the best you can. You work as hard as you can, and people are going to like you.
My plan was to move up the technical ladder at HP. So in 2008, an opportunity came available and I applied for it, and I had my portfolio ready, and instead of using the process used everywhere else in HP, they decided to make it, well, we'll just pick the best person for the job. And so in that process, I wasn't chosen as the best person. When I asked for feedback, the manager said, well, we'll have to work with you so that next time you're the safe choice. And I said, safe choice? And he said, oh, I mean best choice. To be told that, you know, I was not the safe choice, it really stung. And I think that at that point I really doubted myself. And it took a lot of thought to say, okay, how am I going to move past this? I really just had to find the strength to walk away. After 19 years with HP, it was their loss. So I applied for a job with Intel and was hired in 2008. When I was contacted by Bronny, I was really pretty excited. You know, I was going to be in a video and I was going to be the Bronny model of strength. They had me walk out and show the power pose. I really felt that it would be an empowering visual for young women all over the world.
When I got my PhD, my wife and 4 kids were there, my parents were there. They announce your name and they give you the diploma. And as soon as I got past there, I turned around and I went like this. It was a great feeling. That's something they can never take away from you. And I just saw it as a way to help more people. As a classroom teacher, an administrator, and then a counselor for about 10 years.
Despite all of that struggles and obstacles, I was able to complete a PhD. And it was just a wonderful feeling of accomplishment. My master's took longer. I had finished all my coursework. I was ready to complete my research paper, and my mother passed away, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. I felt guilty because being in school, raising a family, working full-time had taken a lot of my time, and I really felt that I wasn't there for her. My advisor called me. He says, Lupe, you know you have 1 more year to complete your master's. And if you do not, this is what's going to happen. Everything that you've done will be thrown away. So I came back and I finished. I defended February 1997 and graduated that May. I come from a family of hardworking individuals that were determined and had a purpose in life, and I had to stop feeling sorry for myself.
My dad had a focus for his family. He wanted his own trucks, he wanted his own business.
In 1959, my dad says, why don't we see if we can get a permit for trash hauling? He actually got the last permit that was issued. My dad says, why don't we just make it GNS Sanitation, the Gallegos and Sons.
We started out with 1 customer, 10 customers. Pretty soon we had 300 or 400 customers. My wife worked with me. We did all the billing and that kind of thing. And Jerry and Rudy were able to do the routing.
We introduced the first hydraulic operated trucks that used compaction. The first roll carts in the city of Fort Collins. Now you see them everywhere.
Today our customer base is between 40 and 50,000.
If my dad was alive today, he would be so amazed. I know he would. It's all been family. It's worked out pretty good.
I'd always told Sam that I wanted to open a restaurant. It had always been my ambition. With all the obstacles that I had with raising the kids, finances, not going to school, not having an education. So what we ended up doing is taking everything we owned. We sold our house, selling our life insurance policies. We found a perfect building at 1228 West Elizabeth. Sam and I entered into this contract for the building. He had a heart attack. They put a stent in him, and they told him that he needed 12 weeks of rest. And I prayed, and I said, Lord, this is what I want. I would like you to help me. And the Lord told me, he says, I will open up your restaurant, but you will have to do one thing for me. You have to feed my people. Believe it or not, between him and his 2 brothers, they put that restaurant together in 12 weeks.
It's her chili recipe that really got going. Why not jar it?
There's a saying in Spanish, sangre levianita, and that means gentle kindness. And that's what I try to portray in my business and the people that I need to help.
If we were to actually predict the future by virtue of the talent that exists within the Hispanic community, it is bright. Because you have energy and intellect, and you have a future, and you can contribute.
God gives us oranges, but He doesn't peel them for us. We have to peel them.
If you're extra sensitive, you got to get beaten down without a word being spoken. You got to have a little bit of a thick skin and say, hey, not everybody's that way.
And we had a lot of people that cared about us and would tell us, you guys are doing a good job. It's nice to hear things like that.
You will find who you are. You just got to know what you want, find some goals in life, and pursue it.
I hope our video showed what these people achieved through encouragement, passion, and having a vision of success. We wish we could have included more of those who have contributed to the success of our community, such as Willie Lopez, our first Latino council member, former Mayor Larry Estrada, Olympic weightlifter Lloyd Garcia, the Godinez family, who are the owners of the Alvarito, our past directors of human resources for the city, Jaime Mares and Rick de la Castro, and other families such as the Gabaldons, the Romeros, the Zunigas, the Barellas, the Chavezes, the Mata family, the Aragon family, and many more. Thank you very much, and we know that together we are better.